Mike, thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
And you too. Can you just give us a little brief intro to who you are and who are Beboxa?
Right, okay. So I'm Mike Walden. I'm the CEO of a company called Beboxa. My background is 10 years as a supermarket buyer, and I spent 11 years with a company called Compass Group, based at the world's largest food service company. And I'd been coming to Dubai for about 10 years on holiday. And then in 2011, probably spent a year thinking about it, and then in 2011 started a business with two ex-colleagues from Compass in Dubai. So it was always a bit of a risk to do something different then, coming out of corporate, going into something quite entrepreneurial. But that was very exciting, and we could see the real possibilities with the market. And we started up a food and beverage organisation from scratch. And then over the process of the next 6 or 7 years, we turned it into probably the UAE's, one of the UAE's leading food and beverage distribution companies. So we had state-of-the-art racking, we had online platform, we had multi-temperature vehicles. And so we were then servicing probably 95% of the hotel trade.
Wow.
Along with, we were Etihad's second largest food supplier at the time, and we were one of the only companies to be delivering from the UK and from Dubai to Emirates. And then we did 7-Eleven as a one-stop shop. We were doing Michelin star restaurants and chefs, Fox Cinema. So it's a whole combination of things. And then we were fortunate enough to sell that business about 2016, 2017. I then spent a couple of years back in Europe, and then I came back to the Middle East in 2020, back into Dubai, I'm pleased to say, and we created Beboxa. And the whole idea around Beboxa is it's a business development company. So what we do is we act as an extension of companies that want to import their product into the Middle East from all around the world. We act as an extension of their sales team. So effectively, we do everything end to end, from picking the product up from their factory and then making all the sales to the relevant sectors across the UAE and the GCC marketplace.
Wow. So full 360 then, basically, full 360 service.
There isn't anything that we don't do apart from we outsource what we call product registration, because there's a lot of grey area around the charges around that. And it's not very expensive to do, and it's very rapid service. But some people seem to make a living out of actually extending the cost of that. And then alongside that, we don't do the marketing and PR. We're very sales orientated. So we tend to work with very innovative and on-trend products. So it tends to be things that are completely new to the marketplace, so that it's something a little bit more exciting for the buyers to look at. And we operate across all channels. So we look at supermarkets, anything within the hotel, restaurant and catering trade, airlines, duty free. We work at all the different pharmacy chains. So we operate right across the piece, and we even work with other distributors and things like that as well.
Okay, so not just retail, you're looking at all different sectors with this.
Everything. So it covers everything, and right across the 6 countries of the GCC. So and we're just starting to expand into Jordan and Egypt now as well, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting then, isn't it? So really got a Middle East feel to it then, for sure, as a business.
Absolutely. We've got a small office, like a sub office in Singapore, which looks after Asia, and then one in Sydney in Australia looks after Australasia. But our primary focus is those 6 countries in the GCC to start with, and we import from 11 different countries into the GCC, and we're representing 25 brands now, something like that.
Okay, and what's 25 brands? All different types of
anything.
brands.
So we look after non-food, food and beverages. But as I said, it tends to be things that are a little bit different. So it'd be a little bit quirkier. So it might be it's high protein gummies, or it might be it's been electrical hair care, or really, really different insect repellents. Something that's just market leading in terms of what it delivers.
Perfect. So how are you approaching like for example, using GITEX as a platform to meet these companies and organisations. How do you go about that?
That's my favourite subject. Not GITEX, but just the exhibitions, because we exhibited here for, I think it was about 13 years, twice a year.
Yeah.
And the difficult thing about the exhibitions here is you pay a lot of money for the stand. You'll then pay a lot of money if you're coming from overseas for hotels, for restaurants and eating when you're here. You'll pay the stand itself to not just to build it and have the carcasses or the showers, it's also to make all the imagery and stuff like that. It's hugely expensive. And you can stand there for 4 or 5 days and meet thousands of wonderful people and end up with 200 business cards. But out of all of that, you probably end up with like 1 or 2 that are really, really good, and they still might not be the right person. So the difficulty with the GCC marketplace is it is like an onion, because there's no obvious book of players, even in retail. You might recognize some of the names like Carrefour and Spinneys and Waitrose, but then they're owned by franchised families or franchise groups that own franchises, and therefore then you've got to navigate your way around how difficult that might be in the marketplace. So we're kind of like the antidote to those exhibitions, because we've got the connections with all of the key decision makers at the moment, and therefore we can get them to the top 20 customers very, very quickly, rather than having to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort second guessing whether somebody's genuine or not across an exhibition. And of course, it's always exciting to get, make your products visible at exhibitions, but in terms of the end result, everybody wants sales, and then that's where we come into play. But so most of our recommendations are word of mouth. So having been in the industry for about 34, 35 years now, there's a lot of people that I've worked with before or have worked alongside, and they tend to sort of like word of mouth comes into play really, really importantly from that perspective.
That's the best form you can get, isn't it? Is recommendation.
No, it is. It is. And alongside that, the departments of trade are excellent. So we deal with the departments of trade from Australia, and Queensland's a particularly big partner of ours, the UK, Canada, Switzerland, etc. So we've got a nice blend, and as they recognise that our key points of difference in the marketplace is we're very, very professional and very transparent. So the whole idea is it's all about communication and transparency, because you hear a lot of new companies and they'll say, "Oh, I've got a sale in the Middle East. Somebody's a distributor. I've got to deal with a distributor," and they'll order a container and they'll get their cash up front. And then what will happen is they won't know where the product's been sold. They won't know what the price it's been sold for. They won't be able to get sales information. Sometimes they might not even hear from them again, because that division or that distributor's then moved on to the next thing that's come along.
Of course.
What we offer is, as a business development company, is we offer a dedicated sales manager. So what happens is that person wakes up every day saying, "How do I sell more of my clients' goods?" And we work on like a pipeline of like the top 20 customers that they need to get into. We meet with them every 2 weeks. We have WhatsApp group. So it's very, very fluid.
It's very transparent then what you're offering.
Exactly.
For sure.
And even down to the commercials. Our commercials are very transparent. We're not trying to make money from exchange rates or container shipments or anything like that. It literally is. It's against the sales that we're are monitored, and our performance and our rewarded.
Definitely. And also there's a couple of key tips there for all businesses that might want to be entering the Middle East. There is the fact that you do offer the 360 rather than just take the one sale and go and they might not hear from it. I think that's really important for any new entrant into this market.
It's very, very important to have full transparency. And part of it is because we deal with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. Some people have got in their mind, "I want to be in Dubai, or I want to live in Dubai in a couple of years, or I've got somebody that's going to run the office in a couple of years." And that's absolutely fine. So what we do is we take them on that journey, and then we hand it over in 2 years' time or whatever it might be, and therefore there shouldn't be any surprises in terms of what they're looking to achieve. But it's not an easy market to get into. It's a very exciting market. Everybody comes along and thinks the streets are paved with gold, and the streets are very beautiful here, and they're very clean as we both know. But you have to work really hard, and it does take at least 2 years. If you're starting a business here, to really get some traction. So that's why we're here, to try and make things happen quickly.
To make it more smooth transaction for them.
Exactly. So if we were going to market ourselves, I guess we'd say it's like business development with intensity more than anything else. brands.
That sounds exactly what it is that you are delivering. And so obviously you mentioned the company's Beboxa since 2020. What sort of key milestones have you achieved during those 4 years?
I think because we've opened a couple of sub offices in that time, that's been nice. We started as a non-food company, to be honest, and because of my background being primarily in food, we kind of got led towards more food. So we converted our trade license to a general trade license, which means we can pretty much deal with any product here, redistribute anything, which is good. And I think now we're looking, because we found ourselves more and more in new spaces, as it were. So rather than dealing with the traditional distributors, there's thousands of distributors here. So it's building those re-strengthening those relationships with them, as well as the big retailers and the big buyers in the marketplace. So I think the Master Roles has been nice to be able to move into some new areas like Jordan and Egypt, and with success. So,
yeah, definitely. And you've mentioned that innovation's the key for you. You work with these innovative brands, and I'm not going to ask you for a favourite brand that you've been working with, but would you say that that you believe innovation is the key to the Middle East?
I think everybody's always looking for innovation, and everybody that lives here seems to be well travelled, because I guess it's a huge travel
great
everywhere. So they're looking for things that they've maybe seen elsewhere as well. And because word travels so quickly now because of social media, the next big thing's out there. Particularly, we're particularly strong within health and wellness. That's one of our sweet spots. So it's when you see the innovation that's going into that now, and the thought that's going into that from all around the world, there's some just amazing innovation. So it's lovely to be associated with those brands and be able to take those brands and put them in front of our customers. I think sometimes it's difficult for those customers, because if you're a buyer, and I'm used to be a buyer, it's trying to squeeze them onto, you've only got so much room on the shelf. It's trying to pick the winners and squeeze them onto the shelves. But that's our job, is to obviously convey the message and help them understand where the opportunity is for incremental sales and so forth. There's some just wonderful innovation going on.
Yeah, definitely in this region. And how do you see this trend continuing in the coming years? Particularly, you've got Saudi, obviously, is a real hot spot at the moment, and the UAE, we've said, is a hub. So where do you see the trends in the future with this?
I think Saudi's really starting to get some traction now.
It is.
They're very impressive the way they work, operate as retailers. Some of the retailers in that marketplace are fantastic. If you take the likes of Tamimi Markets, for example, I always define them as almost like spinnies on steroids, because their fresh produce offer is like first class. And then alongside that, they buy a much larger volume because of the size of the population, and they tend to pay quicker, which is really important for any business here.
Hugely important.
And that's really important when you've got clients coming in, and they're very very honourable in terms of when they make their payments and so forth. And there's not so much bartering. There's a lot of bartering that seems to go on around listing fees and things like that within the UAE marketplace, whereas the Saudi marketplace seems to concentrate on what they're offering their customers and getting that innovation onto the shelves a lot quicker. And that's what holds a few things back. So I think if you look at the UAE in general, if you look at the demands that are made by the retailers here, and I think any supplier would probably agree this, is they're overly demanding on the listing fees, and therefore that's actually stopping great products from going onto the shelf, because these companies are then bypassing the listing fees unless they feel like they're really necessary, and taking them into new markets where they're not so demanding, if you see what I mean.
Of course.
I think that's something they need to watch. Probably be more concentration on the price and less concentration on how much money it's going to be, without any guarantees back in terms of volume.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome, Sally. I really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you. And for more information about Beboxa, you can visit the website beboxa.com. I'm the Middle East marketer. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Desert Dialogues, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn.